Now coming to the intertransitional period. So in this period, the maxillary and mandibular arches contain a set of your both deciduous as well as your permanent teeth. Okay, they contain both deciduous as well as your permanent teeth. So here between the permanent incisors and permanent molar, there is a presence of your deciduous canine and deciduous first and second molar. Okay, so these are your deciduous and these are your permanent incisors. Okay, so this is basically a stable period, and no changes occur during this period, during the intertransitional period. Okay, during this period. Now coming next to the second transitional period. In the second transitional period, what happened? The remaining deciduous canine and your deciduous first and second molar, they get replaced. They get replaced in the second transitional period. All right. So the second transitional period, it is characterized by the replacement of the deciduous canine and molar with permanent canine and premolars. Okay, so premolars are the only teeth which is present in the permanent dentition. Premolars, these are absent in deciduous dentition. Okay, so they are replaced by permanent canine and your premolars. Okay, now how does this replacement occur? We will understand it with the leeway space of Nance. Okay, so let's study about it in detail. So here in this image, you can see the second transitional period over here. Okay, now how does this second transitional period occurs? So how does the leeway space of Nance is created? So here you can see that this yellow teeth are your deciduous canine and your deciduous molars, whereas these teeth which is present on the top, this is your permanent canine, and these two are your first permanent premolar, this is your second permanent premolar. Over here also, this is your permanent mandibular canine, this is your permanent mandibular first premolar, this is your permanent mandibular second premolar. Okay, I'm marking over here. So this one is your canine, this is your first premolar, this is your second premolar, this is also your canine, this is your first premolar, and this is your second premolar. Okay. This is your deciduous canine and this is your deciduous molar. Okay. Now over here, when you will see, you will find out that the mesiodistal width of your deciduous canine and molar is more as compared to the mesiodistal width of your permanent canine and premolar. Okay, this is your maxillary case. In the mandible also, you will find the mesiodistal width of your deciduous canine and molar is more as compared to your permanent canine and premolar. Okay, so this width over here, when you will see that in the maxilla, this difference in the space between your permanent and your deciduous dentition is called as your leeway space of Nance. So this space which is present both in maxillary and mandibular teeth, these two space are called your leeway space of Nance. Okay, now you will find that the leeway space of Nance is more. The leeway space of Nance, it is more in mandible as compared to maxilla. Okay, so you will find that the leeway space of Nance is approximately 1.8 meter, that is 0.9 mm on one side, that is in complete mandible. It is about in complete maxilla, it is approximately 1.8 mm, and at one side it is approximately 0.9 mm at each side, while in case of the mandible, the leeway space of Nance is 1.7 mm on each side. That is total. In mandible, it is 3.4 mm. The total space is 3.4 mm in the mandible. That is your 1.7 mm on each side. Okay. Due to this excess space in the mandible, due to the excess space in mandible arch, the exchange of deciduous teeth with permanent will be utilized in mesial drifting. And you will achieve, the teeth will achieve angles class 1 molar relation. Okay. So let me make you more clear with this diagram. So over here you can see that these are your deciduous canine and this is your deciduous molar. These are your mandibular deciduous canine and molar. Now when they shade off, suppose they shade off, you will see that the space available over here is more. So when the permanent canine and your incisors are going to come into the occlusion like this over here, then you will see that there is more space available in the mandibular teeth. You will find that the mandibular teeth is going to have the more space. Okay, so this is your maxilla and this is your mandible. So here you will find that the mandibular dentition is having more space as compared to your maxilla. Okay. So what happened? Due to the eruption, there will be the drifting of this, mesial drifting of this first mandibular permanent molar. Okay. And there will be also a mesial drifting of this maxillary permanent molar. And you will see here that they will achieve your angles class 1. They are going to achieve your angles class 1 molar relationship. Okay. Now here this is your angles class 1 molar relationship, which is achieved by the leeway space of Nance. Okay, this is achieved by your leeway space of Nance. This is called, also known as your late shift, which you have studied in the first transitional period. Okay. Now we are going to read about the ugly duckling stage. So this is a self-correcting malocclusion. Usually it is seen in second transitional period and occur during the age of 8 to 9 years. All right. This situation was described. It was described by Broadband. Okay. So what happened in this condition? So over here in the ugly duckling stage, you will see that as soon as the permanent canine erupts. So this is your permanent canine. Okay. So as soon as they start erupting, they started creating forces. They start to create the forces. Okay. So they start to create the forces onto the root of your lateral incisors. Okay. And the root of the lateral incisors start to get displaced more mesially. Okay. Okay. So here you can see that this is your canine. So when they start erupting into the oral cavity, they start to create a pressure onto the roots of the lateral incisors, and these lateral incisors, what happen? They generally tends to move more mesially. The roots generally tends to move mesially. Okay. So when the root starts to move mesially, the crown generally tends to shift more distally. So over here you can see the crown have shifted more distally, and now they started creating the pressure onto the roots of the central incisors. So they start transmitting the forces onto the roots of the central incisors. Okay. So the pressure is being transmitted over here. So here you can see that the roots of the central incisors also start moving more mesially, and the crown of the central incisor starts moving more distally. So here you can see the roots are more towards the mesial side and the crowns is more towards the distal side. So this starts to create a gap. This creates a gap between the central incisors crown. Okay, so this gap is a midline spacing. So this gap create a midline spacing here, and the teeth in the oral cavity tends to, when the children of the 8 to 9 year of the age smile, their teeth appears to be divergence like this. Okay, so the parents generally get apprehensive during this period of the time, and they consult a dentist. Okay, so a dentist when see this condition at the 8 to 9 year of the child patient, then he must do a wait and watch. Okay, he should always wait and watch, because this is a self-correcting malocclusion. This is a self-correcting malocclusion. It will get corrected by its own as soon as the canine erupts in the oral cavity. So let us see how this get corrected. So it is a self-correcting malocclusion because as the canine erupts in the oral cavity, the pressure from the roots get transferred to the coronal surface. So as the canines start moving towards the occlusion surface, they started to create the pressure onto the crown of the lateral incisors. So the forces are transferred from the roots to the crown. So now what happened over here, you can see that this tooth started creating the pressure over here. So it started creating the pressure onto this surface. Now what happened, this teeth will start moving more mesially. So the lateral incisor will start moving more mesially and the roots will start moving more distally. Similar thing will happen in this over here with the central incisors. Now this lateral incisors crown will start putting pressure onto the crown of the central incisors, and now the crown of the central incisor will also tends to move more mesially, and the root will start moving more distally. Okay, so the force is transmitted from the root to the crown. So this is the final occlusion, which is corrected by the eruption of the canine. So as soon as the canine erupted into the occlusal position, this midline diastema, it gets self-corrected and a normal occlusion is established. So normal occlusion is established. So here you can see this is a final occlusion. This is a normal occlusion which is established. So after the eruption of the canine into the occlusal position, the normal occlusion get formed. This is a complete normal occlusion established due to the eruption of the canine into the oral cavity, and the force is transferred from the roots to the crown of the root surface of the lateral and central incisors. So this way, the ugly duckling stage, the midline diastema closes by itself due to the force transfer, and a normal occlusion is established.